little did I know that that one decision would change my life radically. I woke up this morning knowing that I had to film this video. I was walking around with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air's theme tune playing in my head. And this is a story all about how my life got flipped upside down. Listen for a minute, I'll be right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel-Air. And it was playing, like the whole thing was playing over and over in my head. And I knew that today was the day I had to make the video detailing how I overcame depression. And this is a video that I've wanted to create and make and just sit down and talk to you guys for a long time. But it just, something has stopped me. It hasn't felt right. It hasn't been time. But today when I woke up, I knew I had to film this. And then I kept putting it off and that song kept playing. And something was like, Joanna, what you've been through is so powerful and so important. You need to share your story. And so this is my story. At the end of 2015, I became severely depressed. I was diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. I weighed 15 stone. I'd had my heart completely crushed to pieces at university over the summer, and something had happened in the family that had just created this huge tower moment. And when I came home that summer, the summer of 2015, it was like every color in my life had become muted. I was walking around completely dissociated from my body. I felt nothing. A lot of people think that depression is just deep misery. Depression is more than just sadness or misery or feeling down. Depression is a muting of all senses. What you see, smell, taste, hear, all of it becomes muted. It is a state of extreme apathy. It is a void that sucks you in and sucks everything that light touches, is pulled into this void, and it is just smothered. It is like walking around as a zombie. And you can smile and laugh and crack jokes and spend time with your friends, and you can go to work with this mask on of normality, but beneath that mask is just nothing. There's no one there. There's no light in that body, in that being, behind those eyes. And that was me. And that was me for a very long time. Very long time. So from 2015 all the way up until 2020, I existed in this state of perpetual depression. And now the thing that set off the series of events, the chain reaction in 2020, was my spiritual awakening. And 2020 was actually when I sat down and I first created this channel. At the time it was called The Art of Life and Love. It's now The Art of Light Love, and I may change that again soon. Evolution, right? But I had my very first spiritual awakening in 2020. Once you've had your first spiritual awakening, there is no going back. Once you've woken up to the truths around you, inside of you, once you know what you are, who you are, what this world is, what it should be, what it isn't, once the cracks start to form and you begin to see all of the things that just don't make sense, there is no going back. What usually happens when people have a spiritual awakening and wake up to everything around them is that it can look like everything starts to go wrong. It can look like everything around you that you held on to for comfort and safety begins to be pulled away. You may lose your job, you may lose close friends and family. You may find yourself lost and floating and unsure of what to do. The foundations that you've built upon on sand begin to crumble as the waters of awakening flood through. Everything that isn't meant to be in your being, in your life, becomes washed out. this is the beginning of a spiritual awakening. But what it does for someone who is perpetually depressed is you go from being depressed and unable to feel anything to having everything heightened, everything. All of the pain that has been repressed and stored in your body as stagnant energy, all of the patterns that you have been refusing to witness within yourself, all of the pain and sorrow in your heart that has demanded to be felt for years, that you have refused to look at, comes rushing in. And it can actually cause this breaking open. It can be like opening a wound that has been scabbed over but unhealed for many years. But that first spiritual awakening blasted me open. And so throughout the following years, I swung on a pendulum between depressed, empty, and apathetic, and feeling everything. And it was, and has been, challenging. I was trying to find the right word to say there, but let's just say challenging. It's the word that I'm going to go with. And yet, I thought that spirituality itself would heal my depression. I thought that the meditations, the breath work, the looking within, the shadow work, the inner child healing, the cacao ceremonies, the sound healing, the mediumship, the ayahuasca ceremonies, the LSD, the mushrooms, I thought being in spiritual community, learning how to regulate my emotional nervous system, learning how to authentically relate to other people, I thought all of this would be the cure, the antidote to my depression. And it wasn't. Every couple of weeks, without fail, I would swing from this pendulum of feeling everything to despair and feeling nothing, of being pulled back into this void pit of depression over and over and over again. And every time I was at my peak, eyes bright, wide, high vibrational light pouring from my being, surrounded by community, having breakthroughs on acid trips. Every time I was up here living my best life, and bearing in mind, I went traveling during this time. Like, I fully said, sayonara, peace out to the matrix, and I left. I yeeted out of here. So I was traveling Central America, South America, and North America. For 2 years, I didn't return to the UK. And I would have crazy highs, and they would always be followed by these despairing lows. And a part of me began to spiritually rationalize these lows. I would begin to say, oh, it's only in these lows that I can truly see the wounds that I need to look at. Oh, only in these lows will I actually appreciate the highs. I should be grateful for these lows. This is just how I exist. This is just who I am. This must be a part of my soul contract. I began to spiritually bypass my depression by seeing it as spiritual rather than as a symptom of the old world. A symptom of what I learned on my travels is called having a low emotional set point. A point at which I would always return to, no matter how high I got. Until let's fast forward now through from 2020 when I had my first awakening, through to 2022 when I left my relationship and my job and my country, and I flitted around the world to learn more about myself and to deepen into healing and spirituality and self-improvement and shadow work and ayahuasca and all of it. And let's fast forward now to returning to the UK in 2024, and once again falling into these just pits of depression over and over and over again, and blaming my external. So it went from, oh, I'm supposed to be here, it's part of the journey, to London is low vibrational. The house where I live has too many memories. My inner child doesn't feel safe here. The person that I live with is an emotional black hole sucking all light from me. I must get away. I began to externally blame my internal world, my internal situation. And so every time I became depressed, it was because I was back in the UK. It was because I was back in the house I'm living in. It was because I was surrounded by certain people. Again, just more and more forms of bypassing the truth. And then it came to February of this year, 2025. And in January, I had one of the lowest, darkest depressive episodes that I have had in a very long time. And it scared me. It scared me because of all of the healing work that I have done on myself, that I could collapse once more into such states of despair, sorrow, numbness, and apathy. It terrified me. I was like, how can this be? Why isn't the healing working? Why is the universe doing this to me? Why am I being held in these states? Why can't I escape my own depression? Why? Something needs to change. And something did, which is why I'm creating this video. As someone who hasn't experienced a depressive episode since January 2025. And I'm filming this in halfway through September 2025. And that is, I'm going to get emotional. Because I'm someone who, I live so in the present moment that I don't allow the huge importance, and I don't celebrate the importance or feel how crazy amazing it is that I have gone from someone who experienced depressive episodes every month or so, every few weeks or so, to someone who has spent 7 months without having a depressive episode. I changed my life. I changed my life. And that's why I want to come on here. And I want to preface what I'm going to tell you, how I did it. Because although all of the stuff I mentioned around spirituality, self-help, and inner healing wasn't what fixed my depression, I couldn't have overcome my depression without that as a foundation. And that's why I think I've been putting off this video for such a long time, because I don't want to come on here and be like, you there in the deepest, darkest pit of your depression, I can help you fix that. You just have to follow what I said. You just have to do what I did. As if just doing 21 days of this joy challenge that I'm going to talk about can fix you if you are someone who has not looked within. If you have not done any talk therapy, any shadow work, any inner child healing, if you're not someone who is in tune with your authentic self, if you are not someone who has practices that help you to regulate your emotional states, such as chanting or meditation or journaling or some form of expressive creativity, if you don't have a creative outlet. If I was sending this video to the version of myself back in 2019 who had never even thought about what the universe is, I would be talking to a boulder. That version of me does not have the capability to do what I did. And that is why it took 5 years of inner work first. This isn't just a band-aid fix that you can slap on. There needs to have been some level of advanced inner work done. I've been at it for 5 years. And only this year, on the 5th year, was I truly able to transcend. And that's not to say that you can't do it. And that's not, that's just me putting out a disclaimer of what I believe. So in February 2025, I took a trip to Berlin. And once there, I already felt a little bit better mentally. But what helped me was I went to visit a friend of mine. And when I was talking to this friend in her flat, we were having some cacao, we were pulling some oracle cards, we were talking about the trip to Egypt, the pilgrimage to Egypt that we'd just been on together. Like, it was super flowy and high vibe and beautiful. And then she mentioned to me that she had done a little experiment around abundance. And stick with me here. She said that she had decided for 3 days in a row, the only frequency or emotion or whatever she was going to allow herself to feel or be in was joy. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with David Hawkins' scales of consciousness, but if you aren't, I would go give that a little Google because it's super interesting. But it puts in a hierarchy the levels of consciousness and the frequencies, with the highest being at the top and the lowest and densest being at the bottom. And I also want to put a disclaimer here that dense doesn't mean bad, and light and highest doesn't mean good. There is no good or bad. Everything is neutral in the universe, right? And joy is seen as a frequency, just like love, just like gratitude. Like, think of waves in the air, like radiation in the air that is just always ever present. And we as human beings are receivers. We're channels, we're radio stations, where we can pick things up, these frequencies. And her experiment was, can I choose to be on a specific frequency every single day, no matter what? And she did it for 3 days. And on the 3rd day, she got a call out of the blue. It was a friend of hers saying, I just got a huge inheritance and I'm reaching out to the people in my life that I would love to share this with. And then he gave her $2,000. Oh my goodness. And you could say to me, oh, that was going to happen anyway. It was just a coincidence that she was doing this challenge. And whatever, right? That's also could be very true. But I heard this and I was like, I want some money. I would love someone to just call me up and give me $2,000. I could use that right now. And because I'm me and I love to just like go in full force, I was like, I'm not doing 3 days, I'm doing 30. And I actually ended up doing 21 days. But I decided that every single day for 30 days, I was going to actively raise my vibration and tune into the frequency of joy every single day. And because I have this YouTube channel, I was like, I'm also going to do daily vlogs that document this process, where I can talk about how I feel and what I'm doing and the practices that are helping me. And little did I know that that one decision would change my life radically. Every single day for 21 days, I actively tapped into joy. And on the days where I found it harder, I would use gratitude as a gateway. I would use this meditation where I would visualize glittering gold light, which I call light love, hence the channel. And I would imagine that light entering my body, entering my cells, vibrating me and bringing me up in frequency, right? And I was documenting this. I was sharing this meditation. I was sharing the breathing practices, my morning practices, chakra toning, all of it. And I was documenting how I felt. And what surprised me the most was the impact that it had on my physical body, on my physical vessel. But if you guys are interested in viewing those 21 days, then you can go ahead and click up here or down below, and I will post I'll share a link for the very first one. But yeah, it had the greatest effect on my physical health at first, because it was almost as if my body was struggling to hold those high frequencies for such a long and extended period. And I could understand why there was always a crash in the past. Why just being in joy would always lead to a crash, because it had to be an active process. This is what I found. Being in joy had to be an active process. And by doing it for 21 days, I reset my emotional set point. I trained my body to be able to hold high frequencies. I began to magnetize and attract things that were radiating at that level. And since then, my life has not been the same. And like I said, I have not had a depressive episode for 7 months. And there have been times where I have felt the need to actively once again bring myself into joy, actively practice gratitude in order to bring myself back up into joy, or just not even joy, but just try to raise the vibration of my body using my mind and visualization and meditation. But not a lot. Like, it's little top-ups every now and then. But doing this challenge, 21 days of joy, experiencing joy, allowing nothing else but joy, no matter what was going in my life, I would have to choose joy. Wake up in the morning, body hurts, joy. You know, looking at my bank account, it's kind of sketchy, joy. As you all see in the vlogs, I had some tricky situations come up, and I would have to move through them with grace and with joy. And this is how I beat depression. This is how I beat depression. And it's so annoyingly simple, that I'm like, why couldn't I have done this before? But I understand, like I said, I needed a basic foundational level of authenticity, self-healing, self-awareness, integrated shadow tendencies, reprogramming of my core and mental states and programs. I had to have an understanding, deep understanding of frequency, spirituality. I had to have taken mind-altering substances that would allow me to expand my mind and think that, oh, perhaps there is more to life than the visual 3D world that I see. And this is something that I want to share. I want to be able to help others raise themselves up out of depression, up out of despair, to be able to hold the frequencies in their body of joy and light for a selfish reason, but also for a worldly reason. The more of us that can hold this frequency, the light beings, the light workers, the light seers, the bridges between the old and the new, the more of us that can hold this, the higher the possibility of the reality of heaven on earth solidifies and comes into being. And that's a selfish reason, because I want to live in heaven on earth. Oh man, I want other people to be in joy, just as much joy as me. And this is the year that I changed my name to Joy. And this is something that lights me up, because healing can be so heavy, and I'm tired of the heaviness of healing. But I understand that I had to go through that heaviness to get to where I am. So it's a bit of a juxtaposition. But I want to work with people who are at the point now where spirituality has only got you so far, and it's time to integrate all that you've experienced, all that you have learned, all that you have known into your being and into your daily life. Even if you aren't depressed, even if you just want to be in an ecstatic state of bliss and love and gratitude, these are all higher frequencies. There are ways that I can help you. And if you feel called and it resonates, please reach out, because I would love to work with people like me. And if you're watching this and you feel something in your body that says yes, if you're leaning forwards, if you feel a gut yes response, if you feel light, if you hear resonance when hearing my voice, reach out. I'll put my social medias down below. Feel free to message me on Instagram or something like that, and we'll see why you've been brought to me. Oh, but it feels so good to have finally sat down and filmed this video and to told my story. But anyways, I'm Joy. This is The Art of Light Love. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you liked what you've seen today, and if you resonate with me, then please show your support by subscribing, liking, commenting down below what your experience with mental health is, what your experience with spirituality, spiritual awakening. Like, I would love to begin forming a real community that actually supports one another. And I'm gonna go now before those things drive me nuts. Okay, peace out. Mwah.